Folks, here we are. It's Friday, another Friday. Great week. A lot of great things happened this week. I'm Tom Young, and I'm here for anchor.fm.com podcast called Money Shifts, and my Facebook group called the Family Money Farm Group, where I teach people how to grow money trees on the family money farm. So it's interesting when I get on here and I talk to people, and how many people, as soon as you say that you're involved in the financial services business, their own thinking destroys their future because they think, oh, I know what you do. I know what you're all about, and blah, blah, blah. And that's why they're all broke. You need to open your mind and allow some new information in. And that's what I bring to the table. I bring new, verifiable, mathematically correct information about the future, about your financial future, family, friends, spiritual, physical, all of those things matter about the future. I'm a 73-year-old kid enjoying life. I'm blessed to be healthy and enjoy the things that I do, but it didn't come without work. It has been a long time and many, many years of working out 4, 5, 6 times a week, watching what I eat and dealing with the medical issues that have come along the way. It's not been that perfect, but that's what it is. You have to do something to get something. It doesn't just come to you. We start every presentation with prayers for everybody in the world. I guess now that the government and the WHO and the CDC has all declared that the pandemic is now over, although some people are still hanging on to being able to try to control you in some way. But we still pray for everybody in the world because everybody has been touched by this China virus that has been launched out of the Wuhan lab in China on purpose, by accident. I don't know. I have my opinion and the validity of that opinion by the facts that surround the circumstances of which it started. But we're not going to go there. That's not what this is about. This is about prayers for people that have had their health impaired, lost loved ones, and especially the loved ones who have been lost, that the Lord would open his arms and gather them into his kingdom of heaven above. It was funny on Sunday in church. It was Ascension Sunday, yesterday, Thursday. Yesterday was Ascension Thursday, and the priest talked about, well, where's heaven? And all the kids, the school kids were there from St. Peter and Paul School, and they were saying, well, up there. And then another kid says, well, way up there. And so it was fun to listen to the answers of these young people when they're discussing about Jesus Christ and heaven and all of that stuff. We also pray for Ukraine and Russia, that the destruction would stop, the killing would stop, and these men would find some road to peace and conciliation. In Jesus' name we pray. It has been an amazing journey in my life. I wrote in the introduction my new book, The Family Money Farm, the CFO Project. So there's a little bit of my story there. I grew up in a home. My mother and dad were married all their lives, loved each other, never made a lot of money. My father only had an 8th grade education. So when I was younger, academics and going to college and all of those kind of things were never really part of the equation when I was growing up. So school and education in my very early days was not a big subject. In fact, I was lucky I graduated high school with an average of a D-. I'm not proud of that, but it took time as my adult to find a lady that believed in me that I've been with for 54 years. And I love her dearly. She was the first adult female I ever dated. And I found out I was the first adult man she ever dated. So it was meant to be. And we've been together a long, long time. So our quote today, we're going to go to a quote. Thomas Jefferson, 3rd President of the United States. For here we are not afraid to follow truth, wherever it may lead. And I want to read that again because with everything going on in the federal government and the Durham report and everything coming out, for here we are not afraid to follow the truth, wherever it may lead. And there are so many people on the left side of the government that are still in complete denial of the truth. No matter how much it is proven, documented, or whatever, they still continue to spew because their forte is all about power. They are not about you and I and our future and the betterment of the country. They are about staying in power. We need to be aware of that. So today, the title of my talk was Government Default and the End of the Fed, the death of the Fed. The government already is in default. I guess, they're talking about this debt ceiling crisis we have right now. And the government, in my opinion, is already in default. And by what I mean by they're already in default is there's no way on God's earth that this debt is ever going to get paid back or the unfunded liability obligations are going to be met. So somewhere in the future, there is a huge, huge crash coming. And I talk about NESARA, N-E-S-A-R-A. And if you want to look that up, you can go on YouTube and look up a Dr. Scott Young. He's not related to me. He's who he is. Dr. Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Young, Y-O-U-N-G. And behind his name, put in NESARA. And you will find the most educated, simplest explanation of NESARA and what is coming with the ultimate government takeover in the United States. It has to happen, folks. There's no other solution to what is going on. It's just now a matter of time till enough people get angry at what's going on with the drag queens in elementary schools, the transgenderism, and all of this woke stuff that's going on. They're destroying our military. They're destroying our country. We have riots across the country in all big cities. This Black Lives Matter group is not a functional group that protects or has any benefit for the blacks. That's just my opinion, but I'm regurgitating what I'm seeing all over the country. So we need to be aware of what's coming. We need to control our own expenses and finances. Right now is the time to tighten your belt as tight as you can make it and save and hoard as much cash as you can save and hoard. That's what has to happen. The banks have already started to melt down and be taken over by the feds. Now, the question is how many banks can be taken over by the feds before they run out of FDIC insurance dollars, the way the FSLIC did in 1987 and 1988. There is a limit. And with the feds continuously raising the interest rates, that is continuing to lower the bond portfolio of the banks, which is their tier one reserve, and there is a watermark there. If that reserve drops below the watermark, the bank is now considered insolvent. Now, under a fractional banking situation that we have been under since 1972, since Richard Nixon removed us from the gold standard, fractional banking is very simple. You put money in the bank, they loan it out to other people. They hold back on average 5% of that money. They take the collateral that was put up for that loan, go to the Federal Reserve window and borrow 95% of that money back again. That 5% reserve runs through. That's why if everybody went to the bank, they call it a run on the bank. If everybody went to the bank and asked for their money, it's not there. There may be 5 to 10% of all of the assets of the bank available. That was what happened in 1929. Remember the movie, It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart. And that savings alone in that little town that was almost Pottersville. It is still as true today as it was then. If too many people come to the bank and ask for their money, the bank will be forced into insolvency and taken over by the FDIC or the Federal Reserve. Again, which is not federal in any way. There is no government involvement. They are all privately owned institutions and run very privately without government oversight or interference in any way, shape, or form. So that's the position that we are sitting at right now. And NESARA talks about that. all debt that runs through the Federal Reserve would be forgiven. Now, Dr. Scott, I listened to 2 or 3 of his videos in the last couple of days and really opened my mind to understanding the concept. And the example that he used in one of the talks, let's say your house is worth $500,000 today. 20 years ago, that same house was probably worth $200,000 20 years ago. And you have a mortgage. So right now you have $100,000 of equity in your home. NESARA is implemented. Your mortgage is forgiven. And we move to a gold-backed currency where the government controls the value or the price of an ounce of gold to maintain a level value of the dollars. And inflation would come from mining of more gold. In other words, if there's more gold, then they could issue more money. But other than that, it is fixed. However, the values and the dollar values would go back, and now your house is only worth $200,000. You had $100,000 of equity today. You owed $400,000 on a mortgage. The mortgage is forgiven through NESARA. So today your house has a value of about $200,000. Nothing has changed. You have no mortgage. You could go borrow against it again if you chose to do that. But that's the kind of thing that is going to come out of this. So it's going to be a readjustment of everything. There will be new elections within 90 to 120 days of all new president, all the new government, and everything will be taken over because the current government, so many of our politicians are operating in the center of a fraudulent government. That's happening. The Brunson case, I don't know if it's still at the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court was afraid and pushed it away. They were afraid to do anything with the facts and the truth. Because the night that Pence supposedly solidified the Electoral College, there was 100 senators and congressmen that objected. And that didn't lead. It should have led to some kind of all-out investigation to assure that it was true and honest. And if they would have done that, they would have found out that it really wasn't. My opinion. So we need to pray for the future. And we need to pray for the awakening of people so that they gain some understanding in what has to happen to heal America, to fix our country. Maybe step back 2 steps and start a lot of things over again. But let's get back to being the great America that we always have been and will be again. Get my book, The Family Money Farm, the CFO Project. There it is right there. Learn how to grow money trees on the family money farm. And it becomes multi-generational. Imagine you were able to fund the education for your children through colleges. When they graduated college, instead of owing banks and the government, they paid mom and dad back. Now, mom and dad used this magic life insurance policy with a dividend-paying mutual life insurance company that is owned by the policyholders, which is only available in less than 1% of the entire marketplace. So it's very unlikely that you would know anything about these type of products. The marketing and advertising of the insurance industry masks all of this information. But yet, if you do some research into banks, the tier 1 capital in banks, they have 20 to 40% of their tier 1 capital that has to be kept safe. They can't invest it. They can't loan it out. It must be kept perfectly safe, is in life insurance cash value of this stuff that I'm talking about. We need to wake up. Go to cfo-project.com, put in your name and email address. You will get an email with a link to download both of my new books, The Family Money Farm, the CFO Project, and Financial Mastery Coaching, the Blueprint. Give me an opportunity to share with you information that will absolutely change your future. It's really all about God's plan. It's about refusing to accept the norm, because if you accept the norm and you do what everybody else does, you can never get more than the average of what everybody else got. Now, if that's your goal, God bless you. But thinking with reality and integrity, I hope to empower people spiritually, financially, and otherwise to enhance your life and find the maximum potential that lies inside each and every one of us. God bless you all, and we will see you here in a couple of days. Have a great, wonderful weekend.